You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 43, Green Bullfrog. And coming to you from the Chicago mixy suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from Providence, Rhode Island, it's John Sweets Matola.
John what?
Sweets.
Sweets.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, is that your Green Bullfrog name?
That's my Green Bullfrog nickname.
Oh, nice. I didn't even think of what mine. Why is it? Because you like sweets?
Yeah. I'm thinking, what would my nickname be? And I'm like, well, I love dessert, so
that's really good, man. Good job of keeping it thematic. What would mine be? I like sweets too.
Yeah.
I was like, I like beer, but there's already Tony Ashton has that covered. So look.
Yeah, but you could just be Nathan Beer Beaudry.
Oh, you know what? Hops. It's perfect.
I like it.
Frogs and beer. Hops.
So you should have thought that one before we...
I know. Should we start the show over again? All right. Well, welcome. How's your week been going?
Oh, very good. It's only Monday, so it's too soon to tell. It's too soon to tell. It's plenty of time for it to get worse. No, well, everything's been great. Yeah.
The reason I did Chicago Mix was because a while back now, Nick from Pot of Thunder mentioned on the show that he had this recipe for the Chicago Mix cookie. And if you're not from Chicago Mix is like a kind of popcorn that's half caramel corn and half like cheddar cheese popcorn mixed together.
Right.
Which sounds kind of weird, but it's really good. So he has this cookie recipe where you take basically like a cheddar cheese, like savory cookie, and then you make like a dulce de leche cookie, and then basically roll out both of them together, spiral them, chop them up, and then bake them. And so I made a bunch. I was going to make them for Christmas, ran out of time, made them for New Year's, and made way too many. So I threw some in the freezer, and I have some right here right now. So I figured,
Oh, I'm very jealous. Boy, just when I thought Pot of Thunder couldn't get any better.
I know. So what I did was
great cookie recipes.
He had mentioned it offhanded in an episode, so I sent him a message on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, could I get a copy of that recipe?" And he sent me kind of the whole list of how to do it, and came out great. I think I might have overbaked them a little bit because the recipe's a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
So but next time I think I got some good notes, but. Very tasty thing, and it was a big hit at our New Year's party. So,
I thought I didn't catch that when you said it, Chicago Mix, but there was that I had tried some of it because I think it was like is it a Whole Foods version came out like around the holidays?
Yeah, I think they have one that's like.
Yeah, well, and it was called like Chicago. It was, I think that's what it was called.
Yes,
Chicago
yes,
Mix
that's right.
I saw that, and it was like, oh, caramel corn and cheese, and most things that I see that come out like that, I'm just kind of like, may as well. I mean, if it was terrible, then they wouldn't have made it. Just like I recently saw this, I think it was a chocolate with manchego cheese.
Oh yeah, Vosges chocolate, also based in Chicago. That's a really good. My wife had gotten me that for like Valentine's Day or something, and oh man, that was chocolate, cherry, and manchego cheese.
Yeah. And I really tried both of them, and I was really surprised at how good the popcorn was. I mean, I'm down for combinations like that you wouldn't usually try.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And, they got the sweet and savory. It's a classic mix.
Yeah, it's kind of like, peanut butter on a hamburger.
Yeah, I'll give that a try.
No, it's a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
Really? I think we were like still in college when I first had that, and there aren't a lot of places that have it, but it's still on a menu somewhere.
Wow, I must have missed that one.
Well, it doesn't have like all the stuff on it. Like it doesn't have like ketchup and pickles and stuff. It's like the meat. It's a burger, usually like a brioche bun, and then like a chunky peanut butter, and sometimes like a like a jam or a preserve, but it might be something like not just like sometimes it'd be like a grape jelly, but it could be something like a jalapeno like grape preserve or
Huh.
something like really foodie type like that. But it's
I
really
could see
good. I
that. Yeah, kind of like a lamb burger with like a red pepper jelly or something. I
yeah, like
somebody
that.
somebody recently had said they made I forgot where I saw this, but I saved the recipe. It's probably in my email somewhere, but for a peanut butter miso cookie. So I guess the thing was they accidentally like scooped miso thinking it was peanut butter and put it in and then looked and was like, uh-oh. So then they just substituted the rest with peanut butter. So it's like a half and half. And
Yeah.
they said it was really good. So I want to try that sometime.
Foodie
Oh,
combos.
yeah, maybe we should start a weird recipes podcast.
Giving you ideas here on the Deep Purple podcast.
Exactly. So, if you like what you're hearing in the Deep Purple podcast, if we're keeping you entertained, please consider donating on Patreon. We've got 8 patrons. We'd love to see that go up to 10. We had kind of put it out there like, hey, if we reach 10 patrons, we need to have like a reward. Like, what are we going to give everybody? And everyone I reached out was like, we just want to support the show. I'm like, okay. So if you want something special, and I can't really think of what that would be, let us know. We could get something special for reaching that landmark number. So far, our patrons at the $10 Super Champion tier, Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorldsAstage.net. $5 tier, Clay Wambacher. $3 tier, Peter Gardot, Ian DeRosier, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, and Mark Robach. And at the $1 made up name tier, Els Murders and Spacey Noodles, thanking all of you for your generous donations. And if you want to help more people discover the show, you can also leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And that doesn't cost you anything. So please, if you're liking what you're hearing, feel free. Thanks to our brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, Riot Sabbath Bloody Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, and Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts. And of course, the patron saint and archivist of the Deep Purple Podcast, Jorg Planer. An essential Twitter follow. You got to follow Jorg for his amazing updates, mostly David Coverdale related. Yeah, so wow, some pretty big news over the weekend, huh? On Twitter.
I know, right?
I gotta sound the
Yeah.
alarm. Which alarm should I sound here? Let's see. That's right.
Well, that's perfect if we're Coverdale related.
Yes, but Glenn Hughes is following us.
Woohoo!
I
We
mean,
were like freaking out.
I know it was great. I mean, I know he's not listening, but he's following us on Twitter, so it's great. He had Glenn has been kind of liking our stuff on and off for months and months now, and like he actually commented the other day. I was like, oh my god, Glenn commented, and then he commented again and again, and then he reposted our Dolly Parton challenge meme for him, and then followed us like immediately, and had a little back and forth. And the whole thing came about because if you didn't see it, it's the whole Dolly Parton challenge thing where this is your picture on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and then Tinder. And for the Tinder picture, I was looking for pictures of Glenn Hughes, and then the Glenn Hughes from Village People came up, reminding me of my early days searching Alta Vista for Glenn Hughes information, being like, wow, I didn't know he was also in Village People, because you didn't have image search or anything back then. It was just kind of like digging around, and for probably for like a good week straight, I thought they were the same person. But there's also a Glenn Hughes in the Village People. And so I put the Village People Glenn Hughes as the Tinder one, and he reposted that and said he's got this amazing he's friends actually with the other Glenn Hughes, and he's got a story about it. So I, of course, was like, whoa, you'll have to come on the show and tell us this story sometime. And wouldn't that be great? I'm dying to know what his story, what in the 70s, what could be going on with the two Glenn Hugheses getting together. I can only imagine.
Oh boy. One from Deep Purple, one from the Village People. Both funky as hell.
Exactly. Man,
Oof.
that'd be incredible. I really want to hear this story. Even if he doesn't come on our podcast to talk about it, just tell it somewhere.
And then after his post, he put a little spaceship emoji after it, which
yes, which
I
was
caught
so
later.
I was so over the moon I didn't even realize that, and I was like, oh my god, he did the space thing.
Yep.
That's great. So good. So yeah, that was kind of there was a lot of other stuff going on Twitter the past week, but that was just kind of the big thing that really got me anyway. I was like super excited that Glenn Hughes would actually acknowledge us, and then not only acknowledge us, but would follow us. So now, like, now he's seeing what we're posting. It's like, yikes, makes me a little more nervous.
Hey, well, if I was to guess that anybody would follow or take notice of this podcast, which is really cool, would be like him and or David Coverdale, who have both interacted with us.
Yeah, Coverdale's interacted with us more in the past, but Coverdale follows no one, not even his own wife. So, not any of his bandmates, not his own wife. So if he followed us, that would be huge news. Following one, the Deep Purple podcast. Wow.
Well, yeah, that would. I'd take a screenshot of that just to prove that it's real before it goes away, if that ever happened. Which
Yeah, if it was an
won't.
accidental follow.
But yeah, I would say that like those are the two people that strike me as like Glenn Hughes strikes me as somebody that like it doesn't surprise me, but it's like it's really cool at the same time knowing that we're one step less removed from him.
Yes.
He knows of us. It's awesome.
That's great. Well, we have a new sponsor this week. So if you're driving down the street, running low on gas, you need to stop and get some gas, but don't just get gas. You might need a Powerball ticket, maybe a drink. So we're bringing to you our sponsor, who we hope you will frequent, and tell them that the Deep Purple podcast sent you, so we can get some more of that sweet podcast money. So here it goes.
Hess Express, you'll always find much more of everything you're looking for. Your one-stop express shop, Hess Express. Check it out!
All right, Hess Express sponsoring the Deep Purple podcast this week. We thank you so much for your sponsorship. I know when I'm driving around, I'll drive past Speedways and Shell. I'm looking for that Hess. I will only go to Hess. I won't get my gas anywhere else. Don't trust it. Only Hess.
Express.
The Express. The regular old Hess, that like the local lane Hess. No,
it's
thanks.
Too big.
Yeah,
too big.
Too much.
Kind of like Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express. I got no time for regular Holiday Inn when I'm staying somewhere.
I'm a guy on the move. Okay, I can't be spending all day walking the many aisles of a regular Hess.
Yeah, everything's got to be express. I want it fast. I want it now.
In this day and age of electronic mails, and we need, we're on the go. All right, so this week we're talking about a long talked about album, something we've been talking about since day one, which is the Green Bullfrog album. This is a very interesting release, one-off release, kind of interesting. We've talked about it in the very early days of the episode. We talked about it in some of the other other episodes where we were talking about the early Mark II albums. But basically, this came along in the very early Mark II days. And what it was Derek Lawrence, who we talked about, a longtime producer, had produced music with Ritchie Blackmore. He was working with Albert Lee, another guitarist we've mentioned again and again, very similar style to Blackmore. And their intent was to produce this album with Tony Dangerfield, who was the bass player for Screaming Lord Sutch. And after a while, they started like kind of getting together, figuring out what they were going to do. They started inviting some other session musicians to like, hey, stop by, we'll start recording some stuff. And eventually what happened is that this entire album was recorded in 2 overnight sessions on April 20th, 1970 and May 23rd, 1970. And Blackmore was invited, and he brought along Ian Paice to play drums. So that's your Deep Purple connection right there. And then everyone else on this is also pretty well related to Deep Purple. So in a biography of Albert Lee called Country Boy, it was stated that they both came directly from the studio after Deep Purple shows. So like Ritchie Blackmore and Paice would play a show at Deep Purple, then they go to the studio right after that and record all night. But based on the touring schedule that I've seen, I can't find a lot of evidence that supports that. They played on April 18th and April 21st, but they didn't have a show on the 20th. They also played on May 22nd and May 23rd. So It's possible that one of them might have given the wrong date as being the early morning date. I'm not 100% sure. But at any rate, this was recorded very quickly and kind of late at night. All the musicians on the album had all kind of wanted to play together. They all had their own projects and things going on. So it was kind of, they just got together. They did this as kind of like a fun jam session sort of thing. And then they did one final session on January 4th, 1971, where they overdubbed some strings and brass to finish it off. So there's not a ton of information about this album out there. Even the liner notes have some stuff in it. It's probably your best source, actually. And that's it. So the players on this album, and as you alluded to at the very beginning, what was your Sweets? Sweets and hops here.
Sweets and hops.
So they all were basically under contract to different whatever record labels or whatever. So they all adopted these nicknames. And on the original pressing of this album, I don't think they even used their real names at all. It was just like on the drums, Speedy. So they all have names and where their nicknames come from. Ian Paice is on the drums. He's called Speedy, obviously from his drum playing. Chaz Hodges on bass, who had played with Ritchie Blackmore and the Outlaws. He got his nickname as Sleepy because he used to fall asleep. Well, he fell asleep during the recording sessions since it was overnight. Sleepy. Then they've got Tony Ashton on piano and organ, who is named Bevy because he liked a beverage, at least back then. And they said that he used to store bottles of light ale under his organ. So while he was playing, he would just like reach under and kind of like, I'm going to start storing these under the desk. Just bring them out. Matthew Fisher on piano, who played with Screaming Lord Sutch. He went on to play with Procol Harum. He has hundreds and hundreds of credits playing with Jerry Lee Lewis, Joe Cocker, Ringo Starr. He got his nickname because he would always apologize if they needed a second take. So these are some really class A guys. So they probably did most of these songs in just one or two takes. Ritchie Blackmore got the name Boots because of his suede cowboy boots that Ian Gillan talks about in the, what's the song? A Smooth Dancer.
Yeah.
Albert Lee, I think you pronounce it Pinta. So his nickname was from an in-joke, how he would say, I'm only delivering the milk if they need to do a second take. I don't know exactly what that means. But I guess pint for pint of milk. Then Big Jim Sullivan on guitar, he's called the boss because this guy, I think at this point he was probably like 28, but he was like the elder statesman of the group, and he was like the most well-esteemed session musician in all of England. He played on 59 number one UK hits as a session musician. On hundreds of recordings, he had worked with Tom Jones, and he got his nickname because everyone just had a huge amount of respect for him. And he had started Blackmore in playing and given Blackmore some lessons and taught him some stuff. So, Rod Alexander, who went by the Vicar, he got this nickname because Lawrence would always say, "Hello, Vicar," to him, which I think is like a reference to some. You UK listeners can tell me what BBC show that's from or whatever I'm missing. I know I've heard like my father-in-law mention that before, but I don't know. I think I'm too young and too not in the UK to really get that right off the bat. He played with a band called Blackwater Junction and a band called Axe. And in the liner notes, it says that he was friends with Blackmore and he worked at a nearby music shop. So Blackmore, he had stopped by to bring some guitar strings to Blackmore, and Blackmore was like, "Hey, you should just stay and play with us and join the session." So he did. He played guitar. And then we've got on vocals Earl Jordan, who we've had mentioned before. He was on the live version of the Butterfly Ball. He sang Old Blind Mole. He was in the Les Humphrey Singers, and his nickname was Jordan. So I don't think we need to get into where that came from. A little less less obvious than the other, or more obvious than the others. Then there were also like rumors out there, since nobody really knew. There were rumors that Jeff Beck, Roger Glover, and John Lord were also involved with this recording, but they were not. So I wonder what their names would be if they were involved. What would John Lord's name be? Fingers?
I don't know why that's so funny. And on keyboards, fingers. Sounds like a
Kill-
mobster.
Have
Hey,
another bite of my cookie here.
how you doing, fingers?
Fingers, hey. Now that would be Mo Foster if he was on this.
Oh, no,
Um,
sausage fingers.
So the album art for this is pretty simple. You've got the original album cover here, kind of a cartoon hand-drawn. It says Green Bullfrog, where all the letters are kind of running into each other. There's in the top left-hand corner, there's a little fly, and then completely black background, and all the way in the bottom right corner, there's like a little frog or toad just sitting there. Not looking at the fly. I think it would kind of be better if if he had his sights on the fly. But a pretty simple.
Still a pretty
album
neat
cover.
album cover.
Yeah, I like it's very simple.
It's a lot different than the I've actually never seen this one before because I've only seen the 90s one that was kind of a what was it,
Yeah, I've got that one. I've got that one up as well.
what do you call it, like a collage style like thing of just it's all
The frogs.
yeah just different frogs or whatever. It would have been cooler if it were this, to be honest. 'cause that
Yeah,
kinda
when I
looks
saw this, I was like, oh wow, that's actually way cooler than the reissue.
because it looks like a butterfly ball looking frog or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ways illustrated.
I don't. It always bothers me that they redo album covers. Like, you don't mess with that. Like, it doesn't make it. You don't mess with the music. Like, I mean, maybe you remix it or whatever, but it's essentially the same music. Like, I don't like when they redo. Like when they did the redo for Teaser. Have you ever seen
Mhm.
that?
No, I don't know. I don't
It's
think
like a
so.
similar picture of Tommy Bolin, kind of like with that like laugh, but it's not the same picture, and it's kind of like more filtered, and it's just like, no, this isn't the cover. It drives me crazy.
No, I've never seen that one. I've always seen the original.
Yeah, I got to dig that one up because it's just crazy. So this was the 1971 release. In 1980, it was re-released as Green Bullfrog. So this is like the butterfly ball frog almost playing
There
a
you
little like natural wood strat with a pick, and on the cover is a quote from Ritchie Blackmore, like, which is kind of odd, but it's like it looks almost like an ad, but it says, "That was me, Albert Lee, and Jim Sullivan. Ian Paice and Roger Glover were on it, and whoever else was around at the time, Ritchie Blackmore," which maybe is where the rumor about Roger Glover being on it came from. It's classic Blackmore not even knowing what was going on, like, when he says like, "Oh yeah, Rising, that's got 9 songs on it." So
yeah,
that's
the rumor started when there was like it quoted him on the album cover saying that Roger Glover was on it.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
I wonder how that got started.
It's not exactly an unfounded rumor, but they're taking this quote from like a Guitar Player magazine from '78, and I'm sure he mentioned it, but he probably, like, who would have known at that time? He did two like late night sessions. He had probably played with Roger earlier in the day. How would he remember even at that point?
Yeah, it was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago at that point.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, that was me and Ian and Roger." So that was released in 1980, and then in 1991, the cover that you and I kind of grew up with. This is when I got it. This is the 1991 release, I believe, and it's got 9 frogs, kind of in various, like, it almost looks like when you go to Instagram and you pick filters, and it kind of lines up all of them, so you've got just slightly different tints to the frog, and then it says, Albert Lee guitar.
And then on this one, they call Ritchie the Man in Black.
Oh, that's right.
On the bottom, which they didn't call him Boots.
I wonder if there was still some sort of, because it says everyone's real names. So it goes through, Matthew Fisher. It's got Ian Paice, Tony Ashton. But yeah, it does say the Man in Black.
Which is weird because, I mean, it's like, yeah, that was his nickname, but I mean, that wasn't his name on the album, and like what, and everybody else's real name was on there, so I don't know why they didn't put Ritchie on there.
Yeah, he went by Boots on the album, and here he's that's very, very odd that they should have just. I don't know why they made these decisions, but because I wouldn't think it would be a contractual thing. At this time, he and Paice would have both been in Deep Purple. Pace's name is listed there. So who knows? But at any rate, those are the three various album covers this has had over the years. I really do think that first one is great.
The original is the coolest, yeah.
I got to get a copy of this on vinyl someday because I think it would be a really cool thing to have. Yeah, so it was produced by Derek Lawrence and the album engineer, a very young Martin Birch. So, this based on the personnel involved and the people engineering this, this is some quality. And we were talking before the show. You listened to this today. I haven't listened to this in years. And what we're going to listen to now is actually a little different. We're going to listen to the original release because the release we got reworked the order of the songs and added 3 songs. And I loved every single one of them. But I figured let's be true to form and do the exact 1971 release in the order the songs were on there and keep it true to the original.
Keep it OG.
But I'm sure there's those other 3 songs we'll get to them someday.
Well, I mean, we had to do the same for Butterfly Ball. I mean, there were like a ton of extra tracks on that. And we did it for a couple of other albums where we knew that there were bonus tracks or additional tracks, or are we going to do the new expanded
We did it for
version?
Play Me Out. We did it for, we've done it for quite a few albums.
Do we do it for Fireball too? Wasn't that like the newer version, like the 2000s version had all these extra? No, wait, we did do some of those.
Well, Fireball in rock were the songs that got flipped for, like, in America got released, like the intro to Speed King was not there in the American version. Right. So we played the original UK release. So we try to keep it as true to the original release as possible. And, the stupid changes that are made, like the American release being like, oh, Americans can't deal with a song called Ring That Neck. Let's call it Hard Road. Or, oh, Americans can't deal with a 90-second organ intro to Speed King. So let's cut that out. Like, just dumb changes that don't make any sense. We want to know what the artist's original intentions were.
Yeah, it's just really weird when whoever makes those decisions do that. I mean, that happened a few times on Kiss albums, and it like blew my mind when they, I think, originally re-released them, like, I don't even know how long ago, and they were like, oh, the original order of the songs and everything, and I'm like, I was just used to the wrong way of listening to them, and I'm like, oh my God, this song is like on this after this, that doesn't sound right. But it was cool because it's like that little change, that little switch in order just made you feel like, oh, now I'm listening to it the way that I would have listened to it back in, whatever, just name the year that it was released. So
I want to know the way it was originally intended to be.
Well, well, I mean, that's the whatever artistic integrity there was, or whatever their original thought was, or creativity at the time. It's just makes it more authentic.
It's maddening to me because the same with the Beatles albums when they were released on cassette, and I don't know if it was with all releases, but the releases that I had reordered the songs so that they would be like, I guess it was so that they would be like even on side A and B. And so you would like, I guess, so when you flip the tape, you didn't have to rewind it too much or whatever it was. So they would just like completely mess the songs up and put them in different orders. And I grew up listening to my dad's records and even sometimes CDs before some of those cassettes. So it would drive me crazy. When one song ends, you expect the next song to begin and it goes some completely different song because some asshole bean counter was like, just cram all the songs on there and get it out. Like, we got to get this done. All the songs are on there. What does it matter? Like it would be like switching up the chapters in a book. Like, oh, it's balanced better if we put chapter 16 before chapter 18. Like, just a completely knuckleheaded move. Like, you can't convince me there's any good reason to do that. It's just completely stupid.
Even sound quality on some of them. Like, you were do we talk about it on the I'm sure we talked about it on the show once when Ian Gillan's quote about the first time he heard Machine Head pressed on CD, it sounded so awful he couldn't even listen to it.
Right.
It's just like some airheads a decision to like, oh, we have to rush this out to market, or we have to do it this way because this is the way it's going to work best, even if it doesn't, even if it's going to suck,
Well,
which,
it's just like, people will buy it. Who cares? Just get it out.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that happened probably when Ian Gillan heard it was probably like in the late 80s or mid 80s or something. So the technology was still new, and I don't think people really knew how to master for it yet. And I think for 20 years after that, people were like, oh, CDs have terrible sound quality, which is like not true. It's just people were saying that because the first versions were terrible.
Right.
No. Anyway, here we
That's
are.
our tirade for today.
Yes, that's our tirade. One of who knows how many. So we will kick it off here. The first song on the first side is the Arthur Crudup track, My Baby Left Me. Love that harmony between those guitars.
Yes, my baby left me, never said a word. Something that I done, something that she heard, she left me. My baby left me. Yes, my baby.
I really love the selection of songs on this album. Like the whole album has this kind of feel.
It's all great. It's these up-tempo blues numbers.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for blues to be like, right? It's like, oh man, like there's another boring blues song, but these are not boring blues songs. These are great.
No, these really have like a really up-tempo swing to them, which makes them really fun to listen to.
And it's so loose and kind of free and fun sounding. And I'm telling you, it would be hard to pick out whose solos are whose, because these guys were all kind of influencing each other. I'm gonna guess Albert Lee on this one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they would know.
Well, as we get deeper into the album, like you can hear the really, early 70s in rock style, Ritchie Blackmore signature playing. You could definitely tell that it's him in some of them, but some of them are a little harder to distinguish, like this one.
That's piano. So this must be Matthew Fisher. As Ashton's playing the organ. Although he's playing piano too, so who knows? Listen to the drums. It's just so loose. It's like sloppy but not sloppy at the same time. Cool key change there. That was very Deep Purple sounding the way they changed keys like that.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about this whole album is it's just cool to think about it, that it was recorded in just a couple of sessions overnight. And I think that's one of the reasons that it sounds so good is like, it's just a live album of just like a super group of great musicians just jamming together, not overthinking it and all this other stuff, just wailing away.
Yeah. No Mutt Lang production.
Exactly.
Great. So what do you think about that track? My Baby Left Me.
Oh, yeah, that one was really good. I gotta give it four bullfrogs.
Ah, there you go. 4 croaks.
Four hops.
I'm giving it 4 too. Just a really great upbeat. And this kind of remind like did you ever listen to Robert Cray?
Not really.
Maybe it was Derek, our friend Derek, that used to listen to him a lot. But
Maybe,
he's another
yeah.
guy that's like, I love the blues, but like I said, you can get tired out from it because it's so much of it's so similar. But he's like one of those other guys that can do these great blues albums. They're clearly blues, but they're never like hackneyed. They're never just cliche. They're always like really cool. He does some great, really good down tempo, like soulful stuff, but some really good up tempo stuff like this too. It kind of reminds me he would be great to perform some of these songs as well. Anyway, that was My Baby Left Me. Next up, we have Makin Time, the song written by Eddie Phillips and Kenny Pickett. Here we go. I love how every song you has like a little count off, a little false start at the beginning. It's so raw.
I really like that riff. It's just really heavy, that little chugging riff.
It sounds so familiar, but I think it's just from me hearing this album so many times. I haven't heard it in a while.
Why do we have to carry on? Always singing that same old song. Same old song. Same old song. Telling lies. Opening their eyes. Making more excuses. Pulling the wool.
Earl Jordan's vocals too are so raw. And I imagine he was doing this live with them.
Why do we have to carry on? Always singing that same old song. Same old song. Same old song.
I think that might be Ashton doing background vocals.
You could listen to that riff all day.
That's so good. That's got to be Blackmore.
Yeah. It was a really short solo too.
Very short. And the word is this was something that Lawrence and Blackmore had been wanting to do since like Deep Purple had formed, like as a Deep Purple song, but they never got around to it.
You could tell that the vocals are like really raw. Like sounds like he was getting tired. Like his voice was wearing out. But it doesn't sound bad.
No, that
I think
sound
it's part of the charm of the whole album, you know?
Yeah. Fade out. I mean, these songs are short and sweet. That one's 3 minutes with the fade out, so 3 minutes on the nose.
Yeah, that was good. It sounded, like I said, a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
I mean, if like probably toward the end, if you listen to like the vocals, like you can tell he's straining a little bit. You know, he probably did a bunch of takes. It was late, you know, but I don't know. It works with this because he's got those kind of like really, like kind of like gravelly, early 70s type vocals. Like it makes me think of like Creedence Clearwater Revival or something like that, you know, but like a little more raw. Like, you know, those vocalists, like you have the ones that are like Ian Gillan or Glenn Hughes that are like really kind of clean, high register, like really good singers. And then you have like the more like raw workmanlike, just rock, just kind of like everyman rock vocalist, and that's like what this guy is, and that it really fits the whole album. I was like kind of, because me, like, I don't usually love vocalists like this, but or singers, but I thought that he was really good. I was surprised at how much I was enjoying the singing on this album.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Making Time.
Yeah. This one was a little, although it was still good, but it was a little less interesting to me. So I give it a 3.5.
I'm gonna give it a 4 for that riff, man. It's so heavy. It's like it's like a heavy blues song. I probably should have done a better job of pulling up some of the originals, because it would be nice to stack this against what the original sounds like and see if it doesn't sound exactly the same. What kind of liberties are they taking? I'm not familiar enough with I'm very familiar with all these songs, but I don't know how familiar I am with any of the originals. Okay, next track up, we have Lawdy Miss Clawdy.
This one's good. You know what else is good about the vocals on this is like it has that little bit of slapback like delay on it, and sometimes it sounds like it's a little overdriven, like he's like the microphone's like fuzzing out a little bit, but it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if he was in a booth or if he was just holding a mic in the studio or what.
But it's really not the kind of effects on his vocals or anything that are too obvious or like annoying. No, this is Ritchie.
Yeah, sounds like it.
A little stuttering.
No, that part kind of has me thinking about it.
You can tell there's a little bit of that melodic stuff in there that's a holdover from the Mark 1 case that is playing.
Having trouble. The thing is, Albert Lee sounds so Blackmore-y when he plays. I can't tell. It's amazing they could fit all these little solo breaks in these 3-minute songs. You would think an album like this, where everyone was getting in the studio and jamming, that they'd be extended jams, but they're really short to the point. I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah, they're not boring everybody. Extended jams.
It'd be easy to do in this type of scenario. I can't believe they're doing all of these in like 1 or 2 takes.
I know.
Probably
right?
rehearsed it for like, a half an hour, 20 minutes, and then like, all right, let's give it a try.
You know what I hear too in these songs, a lot of them, is it's almost like you can hear some of these songs be like they would fit in with like if Deep Purple had recorded them for In Rock.
Sure.
Like they would fit in on the in rock. Like some of these songs, you could picture Ian Gillan singing them. You could picture like, it would have been I mean, they had known him at the time. A great singer on this album would have been Coverdale.
Oh yeah.
Because he's got that same kind of voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I was listening to it when I was listening to it earlier, thinking like this could have been like a slightly better production of In Rock, but it almost sounds like it could have been another Deep Purple album from around that era.
Yep.
With slightly better production, and that's why I think it's like so enjoyable to us, because it's like very similar to that style. And even when you listen to like Ritchie's playing and his solos and everything, you can pick out like all the stuff that he was doing on In Rock with his playing.
Yeah.
And it made me think too of like how we've been so focused on Mark III, Mark IV, and everything like that, Rainbow. How his playing is like so different, how it progressed from like the early 70s to the later 70s. This is almost like this version of Blackmore, especially later when he uses the whammy bar a lot in like his solos and everything, was almost like, he like played with like this abandon. He was like chaotic Blackmore, which he was later, but I mean, it seemed really different at this stage. It was almost like he was, experimenting, or like it was more like I don't know, it was more like chaotic, where later on you could tell it was more like cerebral.
This is when he around the time when he would just be like rubbing the guitar strings on the side of the amp and things like that, whereas and he became a little bit more, he did a little less of that. He'd do a lot of the things where he's playing and then he like go like this, like on the other side of them, which is like, I don't know why you would do that. It's more just like getting caught up in the passion of the moment. It's not like he was actually really, it was one of those things that probably looked, it's like playing with your teeth. It looks cooler than it actually is, because it's impressive that you can do it, but audio wise doesn't make any difference really.
Yeah, but it was almost like just thinking about Blackmore is that it's almost like his playing around this time was like more untamed, or more less disciplined. You know what I mean? Like it was like running free, and then he kind of like reined it in and was doing like a lot more kind of melodic and experimental stuff, but still, playing within his style. But I mean, so it's really distinct, I think. Like you can, like, I'm listening to it, I'm like, this sounds like a solo he would have played on In Rock, which is like very, like a year or two later, you wouldn't hear the same thing from him.
No. But
you'd still know it's Ritchie. So it's like, it's kind of crazy how makes you just think again of like how good he is.
Yeah. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think of Lottie Miss Clawdy?
I really enjoyed, so I give it a 4.
All right. I'm going to give this one a 3.5. I like it. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a downturn from the previous two for me. All right. Next up, a song that will sound familiar. If you've listened to our previous episodes, or if you've listened to the extended version of In Rock, and that is a song that was kind of a half-done song in the studio called Jam Stew, and they took that and they turned it into this song, which is they called Bullfrog.
Classic Ritchie coming up right here.
Yep. Then those harmonizing guitars on that fast line are just so great.
Yeah. This song is so good.
It's long.
Yeah, this is where the
incredible solos.
Like you can tell the solos were improvised here.
I love that. This doesn't sound like fun to me. Switching to the wah pedal.
You don't think it's Blackmore?
I don't know. I've never known Blackmore to have a wah, really. I don't. I'm completely. I could go either way on any of these songs. Like to me, Albert Lee and Blackmore, I can barely tell the difference. They're so similar. Again, I wish this was cataloged a little bit better. Who did what?
I love this solo.
This has got to be Jim Sullivan, I think.
Just the really clean picking, that really clean sound.
But then again, it could be Albert Lee. I don't think this one's Ritchie though.
No, I never thought this one was Ritchie. I always thought it was Albert Lee, but I could be wrong. Let's play. Guess whose solo this is?
The only problem is you guess, but there's nobody to tell you. Maybe one of our listeners has like a really detailed information about who plays what.
Should ask Jorg.
He's probably got like, photos of them actually playing it. Who knows?
Oh, but it's so good.
It's really good, yeah. It's got slightly cleaner tone to it. We've got 4 guitar players, and I don't know anything about what's his name, the music shop guy. The vicar, Rod Alexander. I don't know enough about him to know if he'd be playing solos or if he was just doing like some I almost messed that up a little bit. Oh, now this is Tony Ashton.
No.
Oh, that's so good. I can see why they might think John Lord was on this. I mean, this is...
Yeah.
But I mean, you also thinking this could be John Lord.
You also listen to this song too, and you can feel like, all right, this was probably like recorded like in the studio at like 3:30 in the morning, and these guys are just like having a blast.
Tony actually can't wait till the solo's over so he can reach under the organ and pick up another beer. Yeah, these are like session and live musician guys at the top of their game, just pulling it off great.
Yeah, they really just captured a moment on this. This is definitely Blackmore.
Sounds like it.
You know what? Maybe the first solo wasn't Blackmore, but this definitely was him.
Maybe it was Albert Lee, Sullivan, Ashton, and then finished by Blackmore.
This is Ritchie.
Yes, that's gotta be Ritchie. There's no...
Well, at the end, he does the string rubbing thing too, so. Like, this solo would have fit right in on the In Rock album right here.
Totally. Oh yeah, that's straight out of Concerto right there too. It's I think if I had to guess, I'd say Lee, Sullivan, Ashton, obviously, and then Blackmore. And I don't think Rod Alexander got a solo. I think he was part of it. you imagine like going to drop off the guitar strings and then them being like, "Hey, be on the album," and then you like having to perform guitar solos in front of these guys? You're like, oh my god.
Jeez.
I don't even know if I'd be able to hold my pick.
Take a second to listen to Ian Pace in the background there.
Yeah, I think my only kind of gripe with the production is I feel like the drums are a little lost. He probably didn't have his hands on the faders like he would with Deep Purple. Oh, that's Blackmore. Got it.
Isn't that rhythm section too? Just chaos.
Wow.
Doesn't
Oof.
let up for a minute.
No, it's great. It's like the break is where they do that like incredibly. I mean, that's like that's not that alone is like a lead part like that. I don't know. I've never tried to play it or tried to look up how to play it, but it doesn't sound like it would be like a no-brainer.
Yeah, not easy for one of us.
And then for three guys at least to be playing that line simultaneously with harmonies and have it sound as clean as it does, even though it's a little sloppy almost on purpose, that's quite something.
Yeah, that's wild times right there.
Yeah. So yeah, we do. And there is, if you're interested, there is a Deep Purple version of this available. I do think that this is the superior version. Maybe because I heard this first, but yeah. What do you think about Bullfrog?
Well, this has always been one of my favorite songs, so 5 on this one.
Yeah, man, I gotta say, for an instrumental, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with instrumentals. I love instrumental music, but for it to just capture you like that, just the way that just the energy behind it and what's going on, I'm also a 5 for this one. It's just, man. It's like,
Well, because also like who does a break like that? Like who does like whose main riff is like
yeah, that's not even a riff. That's like a solo.
Like, well, you know what it is? It's like if he kept doing the beginning of Strange Kind of Woman over and over again.
Yes, yeah, that part is a great example. Like, yeah, if that was like they stopped soloing for a second so that you can do this. I mean, that's supposed to be your breather, right? Like, I can take a little break and do something a little, to get ready for the next solo. But no, your break is playing this really complex line.
No, that's a break for like Ian Pace. That's
yeah, because he can stop for a second completely.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what a way to close out a side too. The whole side to the album, closing out with that, man.
Yeah, that's a cool instrumental. I feel like they probably had to work out that part a little bit but for the most part, I think it was just a really kind of spontaneous instrumental thing, and it's just like, I don't know, I think it's classic. I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And
Love
I think yeah, I mean it's great. I don't know what else to say about it. Fantastic way to close out the album, or close out the side rather. Yeah. All right. So that concludes. You have to flip over your album for the next song, which is I Want You. This is written by Tony Joe White. Nice bass there.
I love this groove.
Good tone. And a lot of times, like every one of these songs has a lengthy time in the beginning where they're counting off, or they're like you hear like a little bit of a studio noise. Yeah. And that's sometimes it can seem like a little, I don't know, cliched for lack of a better term. But I think they make it work on this album because it just shows you like this is just some guys in the studio doing a session.
Oh, such a good groove. Yeah, this one sounds a little fuller. Maybe because you got the piano and the bass and the
They're
drums
kinda
all
like-
kind of grooving together.
They're kind of
And it
doubling
makes it
each
sound
other.
really full. Yeah.
But this is the first song where I really took note of the bass tone.
Yeah, it's really, really big. I mean, I already know now too that it's like this album is really like keeps it diverse because it's like all this stuff is really bluesy, but it's like different types of blues. Like these riffs are really different. You know what I mean? They're not like this boring, like you said, blues riffs or whatever. It sounds really.
It's yeah, and listen to that.
I don't know. It's just a really great selection of songs that they did.
And I think it does a really good job of showing you where the roots of hard rock and metal came from, how they came from blues, as they made these songs probably heavier than they were intended to be. Wow, that's like wild tremolo work there. I mean, it sounds like Blackmore, but man, I've never known him to give the tremolo that much love. I suspect that might be Albert Lee. Sounds like a UFO.
Ritchie.
No, it's Ritchie though. It's like I'm like scratching my head on this. I feel very sure of Ritchie on Bullfrog, but nowhere else do I feel like 100% sure.
Yeah, I could be wrong. We could.
The thing that makes me think of it is like when you listen to the Gemini Suite with the version with Albert Lee, you're like, I mean, I think I must have listened to that the first few times I listened to it thinking it was Ritchie Blackmore, but then you're like, oh, it's Albert Lee. Holy crap. It sounds just like it. But all right. What do you think about I Want You?
That one's a 4.5 for me.
Wow.
It's a down and dirty riff. I just really like it. I mean, you'd think it's like this kind of, you know what I mean? It's not a long song. It doesn't really go anywhere. But I mean, it's good. I know how to
That's the
describe
same
it.
thing I'm thinking, like, and something I've said about songs so many times on the show, where it's like, it doesn't really go anywhere. But in this case, I don't think it needs to.
No,
And
it's fine.
I think I'll give this one a solid 4. I think it doesn't need to go anywhere. I think they got that little roof, that little groove, and yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. All right, next up is a track by Mark Moogie Klingman, the Moogster. I'm a free man. Oh yeah. Another great bass tone on this one.
This is another one, like really upbeat. It's got a nice swing to it. I think that's a great thing about all these songs on this album is it's just like it makes you like you know, kind of bop your head and just want to rock out.
I mean, this used to be on constant rotation when we were hanging out, like years and years ago. And It has it's fallen out of my rotation for a long time, and I'm definitely gonna put it back because I'm reminded now of just why we used to listen to this all the time. I feel like this is one of the few songs on here where I feel like I gotta listen to this. It's gotta be Big Jim Sullivan, I'm saying, on this one. Please, if you're listening and you can know these styles good enough, tell us where we're wrong, because this is good. That picking style, I think this is Lee. This is gonna be Richie. Does he say Richie, baby?
I think he called him Ricky.
Ricky.
I think he says, that's mean, Ricky, baby.
They just mad. Hey, Ricky. Yeah, that's Richie. I was gonna say, I feel like this is a song I've heard other versions of that I'm sure of. The other one's not as much.
I feel like this, like, I can hear this is like a Jimi Hendrix song.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like the way the chorus is being sung and everything. You can hear Jimi Hendrix doing the lead vocals on it. Very Hendrix-like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, you break it down. I mean, this album really has like a lot of different styles on it.
I'm sorry.
What?
That's all you're gonna say. Vocals as it fades out. All right, so this has nothing to do with anything, but I as you mentioned that, I just typed in Jimi Hendrix, "I'm a Free Man." I wonder if he did a version of this. Top search result is Morgan Freeman Jimi Hendrix, and
What?
dozens and dozens of more things, pictures of their faces side by side. And is there any credibility to theory that Jimi Hendrix is still alive and he's Morgan Freeman? There's a video about a conspiracy, the conspiracy that, you know, Jimi Hendrix died but then like turned into Morgan Freeman, which is like, I'm sure this has been around for years and years. I've never heard this. It seems like the most insane thing in the world. I don't understand why people latch on to idiotic things like this. Like, is Morgan Freeman. I love the idea that like, oh, I'm Jimi Hendrix. I'm widely regarded as the greatest guitar player who has ever lived. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fake my own death and then try to make it again as an actor. And then he does. And then he's one of the greatest actors of all time. It's like, he can do it. The man can do it all. He should have been like, man, I'm too good as an actor. I'm going to fake my death. And I want to be the best like fighter pilot ever. You know?
I don't.
Like, yeah, if you're interested, Google All I did was type in Jimi Hendrix, I'm a Free Man, but I guess you can type in Jimi Hendrix Freeman or Morgan Freeman. And if you want to go down this rabbit hole, go ahead. But just looking at the search results, I'm like, man, people are there's no hope for the human race. So stupid.
I think people have finally given up thinking that Elvis isn't dead.
Yeah, I mean, God, you haven't heard that in a while, but you do still hear there's still a huge contingent of people. And if you go on YouTube, you could watch videos for the rest of your life of people still claiming that Paul McCartney died in 1966 and was replaced by a lookalike. I mean, they've been saying this since the 60s, and there's still people out there who are like, "Yep, I'm convinced."
Yeah, and Bigfoot wasn't a guy in a suit.
Yeah. They had a Bigfoot sighting the other day. It was in the news. Is this Bigfoot? It was like some camera on the side of the highway, and it's like, is this Bigfoot? And I looked at the picture. I'm like, nah, pretty sure that's like a guy walking by.
No, just a fat guy.
He was just a regular guy.
Not like even a fat guy.
No, just a regular sized guy. But anyway.
All right, what were we talking about or listening to before this?
I'm a free man.
That's it. I'm a Morgan Freeman. I'm Morgan Freeman.
That would be a good Jimi Hendrix song. Imagine if he had a song. What do you think?
That was definitely a 4 for me. I enjoyed it very much.
Me too. Great one. I like the harmony vocals too are great, which I still can't tell. I mean, and maybe it could have been anybody kind of doubling up Earl Jordan on that one. Maybe it was Ashton. It's hard to say, but good stuff. All right. Anything else about that song? No, I think that's pretty much all I got. Next up, we got a song by Joe South. Another song by Joe South, the writer of Hush.
This one I like better.
All right. Walk a Mile in My Shoes.
That's what I'm talking about.
I could be you.
Great.
You could be me for just 1 hour.
Blackmore just loves Joe South, I guess.
And we could find a way.
No, he's not funky at all.
I could see you.
This just proves right here that Blackmore doesn't have an ounce of funk in his body.
Or an ounce of self-awareness.
It's just so good. I love it when he would do those kind of syncopated rhythms back in the day.
Oh, these are the strings that we were hearing about that they did the
Yeah, I was just gonna say. It's probably the most produced type of thing on the whole album.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of filler in this. There's not a lot of overdubby type of stuff going on here. Overall.
It almost sounds like Stand By Me, but with the orchestration. It's so loose though, you can hear the strings kind of being like, the conductor being like, how do I make this work on the song? That's gotta be Ritchie. And for as much credit as Blackmore gets, I feel like he doesn't get enough. I mean, listen to this. I wonder if they were going for this to be the single, which is why they brought in the strings.
I feel like if there was going to be a single, it would be this.
Yeah. Joe South writes good single material.
Oh, personally, I like this one better than Hush.
Yeah.
hard for me to say since I've heard Hush about like 3 million times in my life. I'm sick of it by now,
Right.
so I can't remove myself from that bias.
Oh, I never noticed that before. Richie Blackmore throws in the little riff from Bullfrog right at the end. Just throws in the. It's like this note for note.
Uh,
That's
probably
great.
running out of shit to play. He pulled out his whole bag of tricks.
Or it's like 4:30 in the morning. You forgot what song they were playing. There's a little break, so he just came back in with that. Walk a Mile in My Shoes. That was good. I've got to say, though, I don't think the strings added anything. I think they could have achieved the same thing by just having the organ play a similar thing.
Yeah.
I think the strings almost sounded sloppy, like they were not fitting in properly with the music. And I remember the strings very well, but I remember there's one part where they come in the beginning, and then they kind of cut out. It was almost like, did they mean to leave that in there? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I love that song, and I do like the strings. I don't think that they were necessary.
No, I would say I agree. Like they could have just left him off, had the keyboard play a part, or just not even fill it in with anything. So
Yeah.
maybe it was just an idea. But it's kind of weird too, because it kind of goes against the whole raw feeling of what the album was supposed to be. Like, I wonder what made him think like, yeah, this could use some strings.
I can only imagine, like I said, that they were like, oh, this is going to be the single, so we got to do something with the production to really jazz it up. This is going to be our song. But I don't know that it needed that. So what do you say about Walk a Mile in My Shoes?
Well, at any rate, I give it a 4.5.
All right.
I think it's I really like it. I like Ritchie's rhythm playing. I like his soloing. I love it's a great chance to just hear like him basically playing solos from In Rock, like not hearing In Rock.
Yeah.
Like you can hear more of like what you like if you're in the mood for that. That's what I think.
It's great. I'm going to give it a 4. I really like it. I almost think, especially in an album that so, like you said, like is so stripped down, I feel like they should have just left it stripped down on this song and maybe done something a little different with the arrangement. But I mean, God, they put this together basically in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Great song. Great example of that song. I love it. Okay. And then we come up to the album closer. This one is Lovin' You Is Good For Me, Baby. So this was rearranged and put into 17/9 time by Lawrence to make it more interesting. You can kind of hear it if you try to listen to this.
Sometimes I feel like an unwanted child who just
I'll put
wanted
piano
to
in the
be
background.
safe and warm. Yes, it is. Cold and alone, deep in the night, praying to the God that I never
Vocals are really good.
known. I tell you, just better than beating.
Like he's
Might have
really
been
pulling
earlier
it
in
back
this.
a little bit.
Might have been earlier in the session too.
Like I feel like you walk into like a bar and this would be like the house band playing a song.
Twisted and torn right from the start. Lord knows to me. And now I'm loving you. Yeah, now it's good for me, baby. I never knew. Yeah, I could feel like I do.
You can throw some like
Loving you, yeah.
Coverdale female background singers in there.
Oh, totally. I'd love to know who is singing the vocal. I mean, it's got to be the guys we've already mentioned, but I don't know who is singing what.
I was fighting to hide what I feel deep inside. Never smile, but feel I would cry. Till you gave me a hand to try to understand. Lord knows it ain't right. Love you, yeah. It's good for me, baby.
In fact, I could hear Coverdale singing this one more than any other one.
Oh yeah.
Not to always to bring it back to Coverdale. Clearly, I love him,
Yes.
but
It always does come back to Coverdale. So this must be the 17/9 part.
This is I'm down on cotton picking guitar. Yeah.
I mean, that time signature does make it more interesting. I'll give him that.
yeah,
Loving you, baby. Yeah. It's good for me, baby. Oh,
It's amazing to think a group of musicians at this caliber got together basically twice and made this piece of music that, for us anyway, has been part of the fabric of our lives and growing up for however long. It's just like on a whim. They caught, like,
Yeah,
caught
pretty
lightning
much.
in a bottle with this one.
yeah. I was gonna say that earlier. Good way of putting it.
And they just all went their separate ways basically and never worked together.
Yeah, they're
Other
just
than
like,
Pace
well,
and
bye.
Blackmore.
They were never a band.
Well, that was good. Yeah, exactly. Like, they would, they would all cross paths many more times, but not in this form. I really love that style of blues song too. Just that kind of like low, a song that I've mentioned before is "My Precious Love" by Lenny Kravitz. Just having that
Mhm.
kind of, to me, this has kind of a similar feel to that. And I love that. And to close out an album too is just what a great way to close it out.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about "Loving You Is Good for Me, Baby"?
I give it 4 bullfrogs. I really like the verses. I like the way he's singing in the verses. It's just really soulful. I don't know if I really love Ritchie's guitar breaks where he's just like torturing the whammy
Like-
bar, like.
Yeah. It is a little out of place.
But I mean, the time signature was different too, and everything, so it does really kind of make it stand out. But I could have done without that. Not that there's anything wrong with it at all, but it's like my favorite part was probably the verses and the verse and the chorus. But then that, his solo breaks were kind of like, all right.
Richie, calm down.
How about you?
I'm gonna give this one a 4.5. I really do like it as an album closer, and just the feel of it is great. Yeah, it's the Green Bullfrog right there. All right, so how does this album stack up?
Done. Well, I kind of knew this was going to be on the higher side here.
Yeah,
So, yep, it's It's up there, 8.29 combined rating, and I liked it a little bit more than you did.
A little bit. I see
Yeah.
8.31.
Well,
You see 8.29?
mm-hmm.
Really?
Wait, let me.
Not that it
let me
makes
go-
any difference. It's not a big.
Let me go back and there it is. And maybe it updated. Now I'm seeing 3.1. I still
Okay.
liked it slightly more than you did, but I mean by like a tiny variance,
Like
kind of like what,
0.06, yeah.
yeah. But that'll rank up there with such albums as Rising,
It's even with
Medusa,
Burn. Wow.
White Snake,
Mm.
yeah, Burn, Stormbringer.
Medusa. It's just a little
Mhm.
ahead of Medusa.
Yep. And again, like the further that we get into some of these albums, when we compare our combined ratings of them, it's really not a surprise to me that all of the same ones kind of fall into that category of like there being our favorite albums. Because I mean, yeah, if you're just like you like Burn and Medusa and this, it's just like, well, yeah, they're my favorites. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, what about Shades of Deep Purple? No. So
Sorry, Shades.
not even close. But yeah, but I mean it's just like when I see all of these, it's not really a surprise to me. But it's kind of interesting, like we say every week, to just kind of see where these fall into the rankings, like how much I like a particular album. And I mean, it could be different. You could ask me tomorrow, and if this is rated higher than like Come Taste the Band, I could tell you that I like that better tomorrow. But I mean,
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we could
you
do
know.
this. We could do this episode
Yeah,
again in 20 minutes and come to a different.
exactly. But I mean, if you look at the last album that we did, that it's like comparable to Medusa, I would just be like, yeah, I put Green Bullfrog and Medusa, Green Bullfrog and Medusa together, for
Sure.
instance. And I mean, it's just like, yeah, of course, two awesome albums.
Yeah, it's all the go-to. Like if I look down at my scores, it's like I'd be like, oh yeah, like if I was gonna throw on an album, all these ones with the highest scores are the ones I would go. Like I would go to Burn or Stormbringer or Come Taste the Band or
basically ones that like we would and have listened to again, as opposed to I mean, if you look at some of our consistently lower scores, like let's say the last one we did was Slipstreaming, like I wouldn't listen to that again. Or
Warhorse.
the next one I looked at was Warhorse. Like I'm never even thinking about that one again.
Well, for those of you listening, there are conditional formatting for the color of these, so that goes from red being the worst, green to being the best. So there's a lot of green and darker green, and then boom, some big red ones that stand out, and that's amongst them.
Yeah, Warhorse. I think, yeah, is that, well, actually, I'm surprised. That's not the lowest album that we've actually ranked. It was a complete episode 6.
Right, but that wasn't really
But
an
I
album.
wouldn't.
It was
No, I wouldn't.
just whatever you call it, compilation.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even kind of consider that like part of the official rankings, because
Right, and it's more like a
as a collection of songs, I wouldn't listen to it again.
It's a historical artifact. Like here's a collection of all the episode 6 songs, and it's really interesting, and I like having it, but I'm not going to just sit down and put it on. And
right. So, I don't know if you had mentioned this before, but I started thinking like halfway through this is like, have you read anything or do you know anything about why they called it Green Bullfrog?
I don't. That's a really good
Like
question.
Where that name came from?
No idea.
Because I was thinking about it. I'm just like, yeah, it's like I'm looking at the album cover while we're listening to the songs, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what does this have to do with anything? Like,
Yeah.
I wonder how they came up with it.
That's a really good one. I don't have any information about it that I can tell.
Is it something that they thought of when they were there, or like they packaged it later and somebody else came up with it? Like, because I could picture them getting into the studio and not thinking like, oh, we're going to call this. They're just like, let's get together and,
Right.
belt out some like, some blues tunes.
And the studio slaps a cover on it and a name, and then they like go to a record store and like, Green Bullfrog, what's this? They buy it, they take it home, they start listening to it like, Oh shit, that's the sessions we did with Derek Lawrence. I didn't know they were gonna call it that. They should have told me. Who knows? Yeah, I know that's a lot. That's how it goes a lot of the time, is they provide the music and then sometimes marketing people put it together. But apparently the marketing people didn't do a very good job, because from all what I've read is this album may have sold less than 500 copies when it came out. And mostly
That's not a
because
lot.
nobody knew what the hell it was. You know, if they had all of these guys' names on it, I'm sure it would have been, it would have been I don't know if it would have been a hit, but it would have attracted a lot of people's attention. But
Oh,
you're
yeah,
just
I
going through
definitely
the
think so,
record
yeah.
bin, you're like, the hell's this? Green Bullfrog? Next. Like, I don't know. I don't know who
Well,
these
yeah, that
people
doesn't really show you like what kind of music it is or anything like that. You see a
you have no
frog on
idea.
it, maybe the 80s one where you see the frog playing the Strat. Like,
And you see the quote by Ritchie Blackmore, you'd be like, oh, well, that's a little interesting.
the faulty quote by Ritchie Blackmore. Yeah,
Well,
Roger Glover was on it when Roger Glover was never on it.
I think Lynn Turner was doing vocals. So yeah, so the first part of this, like I said, they released, I guess, a single, my Baby Left Me and Loving Me Is Good For You Baby, in 1971. The UK release came in March of 1972, about a year after the US release, and Lawrence played some tracks for the president of MCA, but the president left the company right before it was released, and it got no promotion. So another one of those weird things in the wrong place at the wrong time. It got re-released in 1980, like we talked about. The sleeve notes were written by Ed Shapiro, and there was a quote from Ritchie Blackmore on the cover that we discussed, mistakenly crediting Roger Glover. That'd be great. Like, oh yeah, I think Elvis was on that too, and like it still sells a million copies. It's like, hey, we're just quoting what Ritchie said, and it's not our fault he's wrong. They remixed it at Abbey Road in 1991 with Lawrence and Peter Vince, and released it again on LP and CD with the extra tracks, and that's the kind of one that we got introduced to first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found, so I did some real digging. I think I reached out to York. I don't think he had anything on this. I did find one thing, which is this very small little snippet from a magazine called Technical Audio in November of 1972. This was like snippets, almost not even worth bringing up. It says, they had this big long page of all album reviews that says, Green Bullfrog is a 9-man group that toys with blues rock. Mostly it's loud, noisy, and unoriginal. The 8 cuts include Joe South's Walk a Mile in My Shoes. Erp. I think they're doing erp because of the frog. So
to me, the way they spelled it, it looks like he's just like belches after the review.
erp.
Like, walk a mile in my shoes.
It's like you didn't have to write, you don't have to type that. Yeah, so I mean, is it unoriginal? I mean, I guess so, in the fact that they're all covers, but loud, noisy, I don't know. It's like the only review I could really find.
That's kind of a, I don't know, a pointed way of saying, like, I mean, it is loud and it is not originals, but I mean, it's kind of, like I said, it's a pointed way of saying it. It's saying it very uncomplimentary. I mean, obviously we love it. We think it's a great album. So whoever that is can go mash some potatoes.
Yeah, we don't even know who wrote that. So there is a really good review, actually, by a gentleman named Martin Leadham, that I'll put a link in the show notes. It's back from 2011, and it just kind of goes through some of the stuff some really good information in here about the album, how it came about, the nonsense about Jeff Beck, all that sort of stuff. So I'll put it in the show notes if anyone's interested in reading about. But it's probably the most comprehensive review that I've seen on this album ever, so you can check it out. But really kind of cool stuff. All right, that's all I got for Green Bullfrog. Not a ton of info out there. And we're done. So do have quite a bit of stuff in the news. So NAM, the National Association of Musicians. I forget what it stands for. What does NAM stand for? The National Associations of Music Merchants. Ah, there we go.
Musicians.
So,
Way to go there, Nate.
our friend Scott Haskin was actually at NAM and
Nice.
met Glenn Hughes.
Oh,
Autograph. Met Steve
so
Morse
freaking
as well.
jealous.
I know, right? And my buddy Chris lives there. It's in San Diego. My buddy Chris lives in San Diego, and I should have gone out there. But anyway, a few things kind of came about from it. One is Steve Morse and Paul Gilbert doing a little jam of Little Wing, classic song that yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to a video of it.
Wait, who is that? That's Paul Gilbert?
Yeah.
Wow, look, he looks like a nerd.
Yeah, it looks like kind of like a hipster.
Yeah, he looks like he's ready to go like sell somebody a house.
He's got those goofy, clear hipster glasses. I love he just goes, well, she's walking, and then he just doesn't sing again.
No, well, look at that. Wow, he just doesn't look anything like I remember him. He looks like he's ready to approve a bank loan or something with that suit.
Yeah, Steve Morse is like classic Steve Morse. He's just not wearing the fingerless gloves like he normally does. And I think Steve Morse gets a solo section here. Here's Steve. Little Wings was one of those great songs. Like, what a great song to solo over. There was this
You
one
just
from
play
NAMM.
the same thing over and over again on a loop and just solo over it forever.
Oh, totally. There was one a few years ago. It was a guy. He was playing one of those. Have you ever seen? It's like I think it's called a C-board, and it's like a keyboard, but you could, based on where you press on the key, you can kind of like roll your finger over it to kind of bend notes.
Huh.
And he was doing a version of this with a guitar patch that sounded like a guitar. Like, if you listen to it, you wouldn't know it wasn't a guitar.
Wow, that's
And
pretty
I think
cool.
It was also from NAMM. It's a really good one. There you go. I'll put a link to that in the show notes if you want to listen to it anymore. But two great guitar players jamming on a great guitar song. Then there's an interview I'll put in the show notes with Glenn Hughes talking about the Dead Daisies from NAMM. So we'll put that in the show notes. Couple other things. Just this one just popped up today for me, which is Fire in the Sky. The story of Machine Head and Smoke on the Water, written by Simon Robinson and Steve Clare. It's coming out in March of this year. And there's a similar book to this called Wait for the Ricochet, which is about the making of In Rock. And it's a fantastic book. It's just loaded with tons of great information, pictures. It's like a perfect book to either sit and read or have as a coffee table book. And this is a continuation of that series. So they kind of skipped over Fireball, I guess, just doing the big albums. But
Yeah.
I will buy this as the second it comes out because the In Rock one is fantastic if you haven't seen it.
Cool looking cover. I like how they have in the picture Roger is positioned as like the
Yeah.
leader of the band.
He's up front, yeah. It is a great pick. And then lastly, from the Highway Star, the original and great resource for everything Deep Purple. Definitely check them out. Thehighwaystar.com. I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you've been following that site for 20 or 30 years. So it's called they have a story called The Church Organ, and what it is basically this guy, I guess it's Jan Feder might be his name. He was friends with John Lord and sadly passed away. And there's a link to his funeral. They played on the church organ. They played Child in Time. So we got a little video link here to share with you. The church organ is being played by Manuel Guerra.
Doing Child in Time.
Yep. And there's also another video on the site that's kind of Jan was in the audience, I guess, and John Lord asked if he was there and then wished him a happy birthday, which is kind of nice.
Sweet shining time, you see the light.
So kind of interesting. I haven't seen this kind of being performed at somebody's funeral, and you can see that, you see the people in attendance. It's a somber occasion, but
Huh.
sad stuff. But
Oh, I think that I just thought of what my funeral song is going to be.
hey, you could do worse than Child in Time. It's a great one. I think I might go with This Time Around, though. But probably not into Ode to G right after that. Just bring the place down.
No, that could be for the reception afterwards. Everybody's these are the good hors d'oeuvres, huh? Boy, Nate, he was a swell guy, huh? Oh, try these cheese puffs. I don't know, crab puffs or what is it?
Yeah, crab puffs.
Yeah, because apparently you died in the 80s. Does anybody have crab puffs as an appetizer?
Oh, this is really gourmet.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Can't wait
I
for the-
gotta say, I'm not too concerned with the menu at my funeral. You guys can eat whatever you want.
lobster thermidor.
Lobster, yeah, it's a good 80s dish.
So we can eat whatever we want at your funeral.
Yeah. If
Yeah, I
you
think-
outlive me, eat whatever, order whatever you want. I'll have an open bar. Have a blast.
Yeah, I feel the same way because I mean, why should I give a shit? I'm not paying for it. I'm dead. That's why I don't have a will, because it's just like once I'm dead, it's not my problem anymore. Let the living sort it out. I'm not going to care about any of this.
Could you say that you're leaving it all to me just so that I can have this as an audio record? He clearly wanted this to all of his vast fortune to go to me.
All right, well, everything behind me can go to Nate.
What do I want from up there? I want the Bart Simpson and that Kiss box set.
The Bart Simpson doll. What do I have? That's my box for my Paul Stanley Pumas.
Never mind. Wait, what size shoe do you have?
10.5.
A little big for me. With a little too much room in the toes.
Yeah. Well, you could hang them up, and
Just
put a little
display them.
plaque under them in memory,
Have you
in memoriam of John's feet.
have you ever worn? Yeah, not him. Who cares about him? Just his feet. Those were great feet. Have you ever worn them?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wear them all the time. It was funny because, of course, now these are the Paul Stanley Pumas. These are the first ones that came out. So they're black and white. They're like kind of zebra looking, and they have like the kind of logo on them, like right around the laces. It's kind of like a little gold thing or whatever. So when I was at Cruise Fest back in late last October for the Kiss cruise, there must have been like a dozen of us all wearing the same shoes. It's like all the friends that I went with, first of all, like all 6 of us had the same shoes on. And we were bumping into people we didn't know that were wearing the same shoes. And it was not even weird because we're just like, of course. I mean, if we were like anywhere else, it would be like, what the fuck is going on here? But it's just like,
well, it'd be like bumping into somebody on the Kiss cruise that has the same Kiss t-shirt. It wouldn't be like, oh my God, how awkward.
yeah, exactly. Like we're all wearing like the same shoes. We had like the same shirts. Like it wasn't like, it was just a bunch of dorks, like just running around having a good time. But when you're not in a Kiss related event, you'd be surprised at how much attention they get.
Oh yeah, I'm sure zebra stripe shoes. Absolutely.
Actually, I remember I wore them to the Deep Purple concert that I went to in Connecticut, and I remember, if I remember right, I think Peter commented on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because
he
he's
would.
like, he said something like, "Wow, you're all decked out," because I had on like a black and white striped T-shirt too to go with them, and like, I had nothing nothing to do with Deep Purple. That's just kind of my going out gear. But yeah, I remember he definitely noticed the shoes, and I'm like, hell yeah, ready to
Oh
rock
yeah.
and roll.
Why not?
You know?
All right. So this week in Purple history, this episode will come out February 17th. And we're looking at the week of February 17th through the 23rd. And on February 19th, 1949, Eddie Hardin was born. Look at that guy. Look at the very young 19-year-old Eddie Hardin being named Player of the Month there. What a
Wow.
player he was. Very sad that he left us too soon. On February 18th, 1989, Ian Gillan hits the road and goes on tour as Garth Rocket. Bringing with his solid gold blazer there, going out and
Garth Rocket.
Garth Rocket and the Moonshiners. And I have
oh, who does he look like in that? He looks like somebody else in this picture.
almost looks like, I want to say Robert Palmer, even though Robert Palmer didn't have hair like that, but
I'm sorry, I don't know why Garth Rocket made me laugh like that.
Garth Rocket's great. I got a little audio here to share. I'll put a link in the show notes. Garth Rocket. So this would have been, I guess, on his brief hiatus from Deep Purple, right?
Mm-hmm.
While Lynn Turner was taking over the helm of Deep Purple.
Look at him.
I used to be a sinner, used to have my cake and eat it. They warned me of my fate, but I was quite prepared to meet it. You go to hell, they smiled at me and told me of the roaring.
It seems like the cameraman's dancing, so it's like, stop dancing, cameraman. Making me dizzy.
I was a wild man, drinking, smoking, messing around with women. Non-stop women.
Keyboard plays over the top.
Not swimming. Women. I wanna go to hell. The place to be is right up there. I wanna go to hell.
That's funny. Ian Gillan has such a style when he's outside of Deep Purple. He's like,
He just does whatever the hell he wants.
yeah, you gotta respect the man.
Time to reform and pray, make mercy for my soul. I prayed in church, threw away my bad habits, prayed out of church, adopted an entirely different role. I gave money to the poor until I was poor. Least I'm sure that I would go up there instead of down below to the inferno, where the evil flames of desire burn higher and higher and higher and higher.
Quite a performance.
Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes to this. I think this is a whole concert. I want to say it's like over an hour long or something. So if you
Sounds good.
It is. It's really interesting to watch. It's a show. It's really like,
and it looks like it's in a club.
yeah,
Looks like it's in a small venue.
Yeah, he's not with Deep Purple, and he's going as Garth Rocket, so he's probably not getting the draw that he would as Ian Gillan. At least he's not going as Shand Grenade. his agent was probably like, Garth Rocket, you're killing me, Ian.
How about Garth Rocket and the Shand Grenades? It's like, all right,
like,
that's it.
Ian, do you not like making money? I don't understand. Why are you doing this? And then finally, in news, February 17th, 1996, Deep Purple releases Perpendicular, the first album with Steve Morse. And I remember getting this when it first came out. And listen, I actually listened to it pretty recently, man. This album rocks. I kind of equate it to like Perfect Strangers in that it's just like, here we are, we're back. It's a little different, and here's what we're doing. It kind of just sets the tone for what's going to happen moving forward. And I feel like it kind of does the same job of that.
Mhm.
Really good album, some really strong titles on it, some stuff that they've kept in their live set, and just a kind of rocking album. Good stuff. We'll get to that some other day. All right. Guess that's all we got this week for our Green Bullfrog episode.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
So,
it. Drop the mic.
Drop them. Well, please don't. This is expensive.
Yep.
But I guess next week we'll see you for the next thing we got on deck.
I wonder what it might be. Let me
I-
curl my fake mustache.
I love when you pretend you don't know.
Oh, it's for the benefit of our listeners.
Although, to be honest, a lot of times you've just forgotten.
Yeah. I can't be accused of paying too much attention.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
anything.
All right, until next week, my friend.
Okay.
See you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.